Good evening and welcome to FTV Sport. And have we got a real football special for you tonight? We've got a club, Hull City, founded in 1904 with super passionate fans. And, you know, it's easy to forget that it seemed only 5 minutes ago that, you know, Hull were piling up the Premier League, finals of the FA Cup. There's been a few rocky years, but all I can say is Hull City are back. Championship kickoff this coming weekend, really, on Friday, and then the season to come. I'm going to try and share a little video with you to get you in the mood. Let's see if we can get this going.
We know what it is.
Is it on the screen?
Yeah. It does bring back happy memories here.
There we go.
Yeah, here it comes. The ball comes back.
Never gets old, does it?
It doesn't.
Quality.
Unbelievable.
Remember, it's
Right. I've just got to get him off now.
Bye, Dina.
Right, I think we're there. Chaps, so yeah, I'm going to hand the show predominantly to yourselves. So, firstly, oh gosh, let me... So, firstly, Dave, I believe you've got full history with Hull City, no Tigers. Dave, tell us about your love affair with Hull.
Yeah, definitely not Hull City Tigers. Don't want to upset the other fans. 1972 first game. Season ticket holder 72-73 with my dad. Terry Neal was the manager. I was only little at the time. Don't remember an awful lot, but Ken Wagstaff was the big star in those days. Waggy, I missed the Chris Chilton era. He just left to go to Coventry, but Waggy was the star. But as I got more older and into Hull City more and more, as Ian testified, the big star became Sedgwick, who we signed from Sheffield United, was a prolific goal scorer in the lower leagues and lived round the corner from us in North Ferriby, which was great because we could go and badger him and take his dog for a walk, have a chat with his good lady, and get a lift to the ground again. That was a bit of a dream in those days, back in 79-80. But Hull City it was bad times. We went down. We got Mike Smith in, the former Welsh manager, big money,
yes,
didn't work out.
Mike.
But eventually it turned back. Brian Horton, so people like that brought the Tigers back, and then the glory days, I guess you could say, as a top flight club started in 2008 when we won the playoff final against Bristol City, which was a magical day.
And an FA Cup final.
Yeah, FA Cup final was great, and if we'd scored the third goal when I think we hit the post, didn't we? Alex Bruce, was it? Yeah, if we'd gone 3-0, we might have had a chance of holding on against Arsenal. But listen, these were back in the 70s when me and Ian were dreaming of playing a cup final. We got nowhere near the cup final. We were knocked out in round 3 by Leicester or Fulham.
So let's hand it across to Ian. And for anybody watching, my relation in the show is Ian and I ski. So in January, we go on a boys' ski trip. We have for many, many years. And Ian is a star athlete. No surprise there. He's a hell of a skier, and I follow him down the piste in his wake. Ian, tell us about your love affair with Hull.
Well, mine started just after Dave, actually, where we went to primary school together, and I was asked at primary school, which team do you follow? So I asked the question, which one's the closest? And they said Hull. So I got lumbered with them from there on in. And like anything, once you're into it, you get into it in a big way. Used to go away with Dave and his dad. They used to take us to night matches midweek, which was really good fun. And seeing the days out at Barnsley and places like that, Huddersfield. But in those days, the best thing was we actually, you'd see the manager walking around the village. You'd know that the players live around the corner, and you could actually shout it. Then he smooth on the pitch and he shout back at you, which was hilarious because there weren't many of us in the stands. But it was good days, and it all came to a big peak where we were about to go out of the Football League, and we played Scarborough. And all of a sudden, all the old crowd turned up again, and we couldn't get us all in. There was a bit of fiddling, I would think, on the game seats. But we're all packed in, and from there on in, the club changed really, and started moving on. Adam Pearson came along, bailed out the club, brought some financial nous from Leeds, and started putting a good steady platform in. And then came the new stadium. And it was full house.
Which has a great reputation, and it's been voted like Stadium of the Year a few times. What's it like? I haven't been there.
Well, recently, there's not been much of an atmosphere. There's been a bit of a fallout with the owners for a few years, which left a bad taste in everybody's mouth, really. But the good thing about last season, I've seen a few friends that have boycotted and stay away, saying they're going to come back. So hopefully everybody's going to come back to the ground and create a bit of an atmosphere. But we've had some.
Do you know someone called Lee Walker?
Yes, I do.
Lee said he remembers that Scarborough game.
Yeah, Lee's old enough to remember it, most definitely. Yes, he would be in Kempton with Ian.
Yeah, but
if we step down a generation, we have Ian's son on here, John. You know, your love affair with Hull City must be tons more recent than the boys we've just spoken to. How did you still follow in your father's footsteps? Oh, you're on mute, sir. Ian's wishing that was forever, but there you go. You're on. He's still on mute. You've done this, haven't you, Ian?
No,
there we go. There we go. Sorry, back in. So yeah, I don't think I really had a choice, to be honest. I think I wanted to be a Man United fan first for a little bit, and then a Newcastle fan, and eventually ground me down by taking me to Boothry Park back in the day. I remember the very first game. Actually, it was a 7-4 thriller against Swansea in the late 90s. I thought, wow, this is pretty interesting. I can get on to this, and then that was followed up by a 6-1 victory over Kidderminster Harriers. I was like, wow, this is great. It can only get better. Followed by about a decade of doom and gloom, and of the Joyces almost bankrupting the club, losing the last game at Boothry Park back in the day. And then eventually we moved to the new stadium, and from there it was only ever up. We had Peter Taylor as the coach came in, took us to back-to-back promotions, and it was just onwards and upwards from there. Yeah, obviously Dean Windass coming back into the club. I was still a season ticket holder and saw him score the winning goal against Leeds to send them down as keepers in the Championship. I mean, what a time to see that. And then obviously the Premier League and the Steve Bruce era, which was phenomenal, and lucky to see as a Hull City fan, really.
That's fantastic. Great. So God knows how many years between you all. It's got to be, I'm looking at the lads, it's got to be like maybe 40, 80, 20. So that's 100 years. There's probably 100 years of support or more between three guys here of Hull City. You know, as I said, you know, the club 1904, but I mean, in recently, you know, there's three pretty much star players in the Premier League: Maguire, Jared Bowen, and Andy Robertson, all came from Hull. What a bloody shame they're not there fighting for you in the Championship. But let's go back to Dave first. So one Division 1, champions of Division 1, back in the Championship. What's your thoughts on this season? You know, who are going to be the key players? Where will it be won and lost?
Well, we've made about 6 signings. I'm quite excited about the lad we've signed today from Manchester City on loan, Matt Smith. Not the Doctor Who actor, I hasten to add, but he's a player who's a box-to-box midfielder by all accounts, and he sounds exciting, as does Ryan Longman, who's come in as well on loan. I listened to Grant McCann last night on the local radio station, and he gave a long interview. And he sounded really positive. I suppose as manager he has to, but I think he bounced off on people. And his his renaissance as Hull City manager came last season, winning the league, having taken us down the year before. So he starts very much with a clean sheet with fans now, I think. But I think he's learnt a lot from what he was saying. And it's going to be an even, apart from Fulham and West Brom, who have got the parachute payments, Sheffield United perhaps, I don't see anybody spending big money in the Championship this season, not really. I know Stoke have splashed out a little bit the last couple of days, but they had to sell to buy. So it's going to be quite an even field, I think, financially. It's going to come down to the astuteness of the transfers that you're bringing in. And Lee Darnborough at Hull City has proven over the last 2 or 3 years that he's an astute guy. And we've had some good players come in to complement the local lads who have really come to the fore. So the ones to look out for me, we're always going to be, we've got Malik Wilkes, who's a bit of a maverick forward, can play on the wing, can play through the middle. He's had his troubles in the past, but he can score some goals and he can fire them in from anywhere. Get Malik fit, but he's had a little injury in pre-season. Keane Lewis-Potter, the local lad with a big future. And Jacob Greaves, who's a son of ex-Tiger Mark Greaves, he's already been linked with moves to the Premier League. It's up to us to hold on to him. So three players I think are going to have a big impact of those three.
Cool. Over to you, Ian. You know, we were talking off air. You're one of my favourite shows that I've watched, I think, on Netflix or Prime or whatever it is, was Sunderland Till I Die. And I watched all of it. And it's George Honeyman there. And he was the local lad. And he's probably the nicest guy who came through the whole programme. And I've kind of followed him as a result of watching, Sunderland Till I Die. I hear he's injured, but he was your player of the season last season, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, he's got a fantastic engine on him. And his work rate was phenomenal last season. And he just seemed the season before in the Championship, he seemed to have the same work rate, but seemed to be running after the ball. Now he seemed to be able to get the ball, make the plays, make the moves, and he really came into his own. The sad thing is he's not starting the season with his injury. The sooner he gets back, the team will lift in confidence. I mean, we lost 2 players the season before, and the whole thing crumbled. When Bowen left and Grzycki, so when those 2 went, they seemed to lose confidence and we just tumbled. I'm hoping that we can get a few good results. But as a fan, we're playing attacking football with local lads. I mean, there's not many sides that have kids from their own city, their own academy playing for them, and getting a result. And this is what
who are their local best players?
We mentioned Jacob, didn't we?
Jacob Greaves. Yeah, I mean, we saw his old man playing for the City. It's my nephew's mate from school. He's a local lad from the community, but doing phenomenally well at his football. Lewis Potter, but Bowen came out of the academy, so they're actually doing something good in the academy.
That's good.
Andy Smith coming through with a bit of a prospect, isn't he?
I'll look out for Honeyman because I liked him from the show. And actually, I don't think he's ever played in the Championship. So for him, this will be quite a highlight of career. So once he gets fit, I'd have thought he'd really, really relish this. Flicking across to John, your thoughts on the new season, sir? Maybe formation, the league? What are the threats? I mean, let's hope. I mean, Derby seems to be nailed on for bottom place anyway. So.
Yeah. So I'm a bit of a Grant McCann cynic. I think my biggest issue with him as a manager is he plays one formation. I hope that coming into the new season he can adapt and have a bit of a plan B. So when the better teams start to counter his game plan, which is always to attack with wide wingers with a central midfielder holding up the ball and distributing it, I think it's really important that he has, against those better teams that can press high at high tempo with some quality in the midfield, what do we fall back onto? What's the second plan? Can we play pragmatic football and grind out those difficult results? I think we'll struggle to do that. I think we've got a good enough squad to have a solid performance. I think realistically, I'd be quite happy with if I had to be over the top with a top 10 finish. I think middle of the pack in the middle third of the teams, I think is realistic. If you were to ask me to put a number on it, I'd go with 15th, I think. We've touched on the injuries a little bit. I think there's a chance we won't have Honeyman, Callum Elder, and also Malik Wilkes the first couple of games. So you always run a bit of a risk if you're losing your best players in the initial stages to get some momentum going forward. But, I think it's a good opportunity. The squad is good. They've got some good young players, as we've touched on. And the feeling's it's got to be positive in the dressing room, having just won the league. So hopefully that'll drive us forward. But for me, I'd like to see McCann have can he have the tactical ability to go up against some of the top managers in the country, some of the best squads in the country when it's getting difficult? That'd be my take on it, I think.
Cool. If we drop down, let's keep the conversation on McCann, Dave. I'd look to your thoughts on it. I mean, he's a relatively young manager. I think he's only 41. He's never managed in the Championship, to my knowledge. He came from Doncaster, didn't he? A couple of good seasons at Doncaster. He's not exactly got an extensive CV, but obviously, he won the league in style last year. What's your thoughts? Has he got enough experience, got enough tactical nous to keep you in the Championship? He's no Steve Bruce.
No, he's very different to Steve Bruce. Steve Bruce is very much a man motivator, isn't he? I think that's Bruce's strong point, the way he can motivate and get players going. Not a great tactician. McCann had one season with us in the Championship and took us down, and we got annihilated at Wigan in the process by 8-0. That was when we lost, as Ian referred to, we lost Bowen and Grzycki, and we didn't have a backup plan, so we just plummeted. He's obviously proven himself to be a decent League One manager.
Mm-hmm.
He's a 4-3-3 man, and that's the philosophy of Hull City. That comes from the owners down to the manager. So I don't know how much McCann say he's got in changing the formation, whether the powers at the front will be above him and tell him what formation to play. But he is a rigid 4-3-3, maybe slips into a 3-5-2 occasionally.
It's that bad, is it? The manager is a bit of a puppet. The owners have a lot of say, do they?
Well, the club, Ihab Alam, who's the chairman, he has said in the past, our ethos is, it's a 4-3-3 philosophy. That's how we're going to play it. Grant McCann plays that. That's his number one formation. So he fits in with that. He's said in the past he's not forced to do it. We don't know, do we? But whether he can prove himself in the Championship, he's a good League One manager. That's without doubt. He did a good job at Doncaster. He's taken us back up at the first attempt. Championship, as John said, there's some really strong teams in there with some very technical players, and it's going to be how he can set us up to counteract the likes of Fulham, who are oozing so much talent in their squad. It's ridiculous, and that's going to be a test for him. His other problem is, as he was asked about last night, is we've only really got two strikers at the club. Josh McGuinness is our out-and-out number one striker. The backup is Tom Eaves, who hasn't set the world on fire in the Championship for all his efforts. And if Josh McGuinness was to get an injury or was to suffer with a drop-off in form, and he's getting older, is Josh, where do the goals come from? And it would fall very heavily on the likes of Wilkes and King Lewis Potter and Longman, I imagine. And they're not out-and-out strikers. So, well, McCann doesn't seem to be too concerned about it at the minute. So it's going to be a big season for McCann, definitely. Where if we're bottom of the league at the end of October, November, I'm not sure what the owners will do. Unpredictable, the owners.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Jem has made a comment here, and I had my mate Rick and a friend of his on who are Fulham fans, Now, it's interesting because they've yo-yoed as well, and he certainly has a lot more of a fun season when they're, right in the top four of the Championship than when they're, they've got stress every game in the Premier League. And it will be interesting, as Gemma says, going from the real highs of promotion and winning the Division 1 to a bloody battle in the Championship. Because, to be fair, Fulham will be good. They've got a good manager, good setup. I think Bournemouth under Scott Parker will take some beating. West Brom have not lost many players, and they've got a really good manager, real good acquisition there. You've also got Swansea. Under it's the Barnsley. The Barnsley manager went to West Brom, but Swansea have just appointed someone. Oh gosh, who is it? Who's good? Sorry,
Russell Martin from Milton Keynes Dons.
Yeah, that's right. He's got a good reputation, so I wouldn't write Swansea off. I think West Brom, Fulham, Bournemouth, Swansea, and Sheffield United, because Sheffield United they've not even lost Sander Berg yet. So, they've not lost many of the key players. Those 4 or 5 will be pretty muscular to beat, won't they?
Yeah, but we've been there before where you get these star players, and they think it's below them and don't put the effort, don't put the hard yards in the Championship after playing in the Premiership. And if you get to, Jimmy Bullard, what a talented player he was, right? But he decided he didn't want to play more than he did.
That's right, yeah. Huge disappointment with Jimmy.
So if you've got star players and quality players like him that don't want to play, you can be in a right mess. Sunderland slipped straight through. So Sheffield United could do that.
They don't sign anybody United, don't they?
Yeah, they'll be stuck into a lot of big contracts, I would think. You're paying a lot of money out, not a lot coming in through the door. If you don't.
What about the lad? Was it Ryan Brewster? They signed for 20 million from Liverpool. He'll not be on a grand a week, will he? He'll be on 10, 15, 20 a week there. And it was 20 million tag, wasn't it? So, yeah, and he hardly got a game. So let's hope he can turn it around. But it's John. I think Simon's, it looks to say he's called you Joe. Joe looks ready to play. I assume he's talking about you.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, bring me on. Figure of Gabby Grubby.
That's right.
So, John,
just running into players, can't kick a ball straight.
Pick us up from here. Pick us up. If you could sign 3 more players, what positions would you choose? Where's Hull vulnerable? Where do they need to strengthen? There's still, a good 3 weeks of the transfer window. And a lot of Premier League teams looking to loan, I would have thought.
Yeah, definitely. I think a number 9 is essential, as we've already touched on. I think Josh McGuinness is a single point of failure. So if he picks up a knock or isn't getting the goals we need, I wouldn't trust Tommy East to come in and be able to carry out that mantle and keep the attacking line going forward. So I think a number 9 is essential. I think we've got a relatively strong midfield. I think we've got some pretty good wide players as well. So I'd be relatively content there. Maybe a centre back. I know we've got Jacob Greaves has had a really good season last season. Alfie Jones looks like he's a strong contender to partner in the back line. But if you lose those 2, then you're relying on some very junior players to come in. And maybe it's too much to ask for a full season in the Championship. But other than that, maybe just some experience. I know Huddlestone's been in around the training with the club. I think he'd be good to have back in the dressing room if we can get him.
Yeah, what's the story there?
So I think he's not got a club. He's a free agent. Yeah, he was a bit of a Hull legend. He took us up twice and was there for all the good moments in the FA Cup final. I think just to have him back in the club, to develop some of those younger players and to, come off the bench, give us a good 30 minutes if we need some experience to control a game. I think it's a no-brainer, really. I think McCann's come out and said he's worried a bit about his fitness because he's getting old and he didn't set the world on fire in his late years at Derby. I think he's about 34. Yeah, 34.
He was at Spurs, wasn't he, before that, yeah?
Yeah, that's where he started. He came to us from Spurs and has spent, the last 4 years or so with another Hull legend, Curtis Davis, over at Derby. But, free agent, we took him in to train with him. He's looked pretty decent in the friendlies. So, get him in for that experience.
Yeah, I was looking. I go and watch Crystal Palace a lot, and because it's my local side in London, and I've got a season ticket there and watch there. And obviously, Gary Cahill has stepped away from Palace. He's an older guy, but he's from the north of England. Because I think he came originally from Bolton, if my memory serves me right. So I'd have thought he would want a northern move for probably his last season. Be sort of centre back.
Take that in a heartbeat. Yeah, I'd say Gary Cahill in a heartbeat if he's available. But I'm not sure. I know the owners are quite rigid with the pay structure, so. Would they be able to fork out his wages even on a year-long contract?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not sure, but I'd take him if he's free and he's interested. Send him our way.
I don't know him personally, but I'm just trying to think of the sort of experienced centre-back who would keep you in the Championship. Someone of maybe he's a bit expensive for you, but for someone for that ilk, it's like when I was talking to my mate Ben, who's a passionate Norwich fan, and they bought Grant Hanley a while back, and he swears by him. He thinks he's a terrific central defender. Played in the Euros and everything. So, trying to pick up that sort of a centre back, I would have thought might be pretty critical for you.
Yeah.
Dave, your thoughts on players you still need to add? Anyone you've got an eye on? Any nudge, wink, wink knowledge on the inside of players coming in?
No, none whatsoever. Tom Huddlestone, I think, would be a really good influence on the younger players. If he's been there, he's done it. what I can gather, he wants another year in football. He doesn't want COVID to end his career. Why should he? He's still got a lot to give. I'd love to see Tom sign, but realistically, I'm not sure. We tend to sign younger players with a view to moving them on perhaps in 2 or 3 years for a bigger fee. That seems to be more the philosophy, although George Moncur doesn't really fit that, I don't suppose. The centre back, I mean, Gary Cahill, if he's prepared to take £5,000 a week at Hull City, then I'm sure we'd be quite keen on him. I'm not sure he'd be so keen on that. We do need a bit of experience at the back, as we've already alluded to. Breeze and Jones were superb last season. Actually, Jones, I thought, was better in midfield. He's an absolute Rolls Royce of a midfielder. But he's playing, Alfie Jones is playing at the back with Jacob Breeze. They do complement each other very, very well. But the backup, as we've already said, Deschamps Bernard's come in on loan from Manchester United. And then we've got other players, sort of fringe defenders. We don't have a Curtis Davis there, for instance, or a Gary Cahill. So perhaps sometimes you do need that little bit of experience, and that's the one thing that's maybe lacking in the Hull City squad is players who've been there and done it. Not Richie Smallwood, but he's never played regularly in the Championship. He's very much a League One legend, if you like. He tends to get teams out of the Division 1 into the Championship, and then he fades. And he's also getting older. No disrespect, Richie, but a bit of experience perhaps in 1 or 2 areas. But generally speaking, we've got cover for most positions except centre forward.
Ian, anything you want to add on players you'd like to see come in, positions you think are dicey? Your lad reckons up front it's an accident waiting to happen. What's your thoughts?
I'd like to see the youth carrying on. If we do, I mean, Bowen came into it pretty much in a season. He turned from the guy that's off the bench and he isn't going to give you anything to, wow, what we've got here. The owners like the idea of bringing them in cheap, selling them high, making some money. It's kept the club going. It's kept them interested in the club. So you never know what they've got in the academy that might just break through and steal the show, really. So ever the optimist, half full for me.
Yeah, because Hull has some track record of finding diamonds, so I hope so. I heard my mate Ben was on the other night, and we'll move on and we'll talk about the early games of the season. John, you can kick this off, yeah? And, you have to be almost careful what you wish for. They've just got promoted back to the Premier League from the Championship, yeah? And their first bunch of games, yeah? They're at home to Liverpool. They're away at Man City. They're at home to Leicester. And then they're away at Arsenal. That's their first 4 games, yeah? Now, I was looking at Hull City, and actually 3 of the first 4 games are at home. That's a massive advantage. Preston away looks tough, but Wigan at home, QPR at home, and come on, you got to leather Derby at home 4th game in. What's your thoughts, John? After 4 games, how's that going to pan out?
Yeah, I think the Preston game's crucial because it is a tough away game, and they're probably a bit of a mid-tier side in the Championship. So I think that'll be a good barometer to see how we're likely to fare in that first phase of the season. I think Wigan, you got to fancy yourselves against Wigan at home and absolutely Derby. If we're not getting 2 or 3 goals against them, while Wayne Rooney's out on the beers, then you don't know what's going to happen. I fancy QPR as a strong team this year, so I think that will be a real challenge for us. I think if we can pick up 4 points in the league and progress to the next round of the cup, that is a good start and something to be aimed for. I think the crucial bit is with the home games. We've touched on the owners and some of the issues I've had in the past. I think the atmosphere in the crowd in the stadium is going to be crucial. We don't really know what the atmosphere is going to be like. Is it going to be a protest atmosphere? Will people just be glad to be back watching football again? I think if the fans can get behind the team and have that bit of atmosphere we had back in 5 or 6 years ago when we were on our promotion run, that'll be a real bonus to the guys on the pitch. So hopefully we see that happen.
Great stuff. A couple of messages. Do you know a chap called James Burrell?
I do indeed, yes. Hi, James.
Great stuff. Hello, James. He says, good chat, lads. Confident for the new season. Do you know another chap called Lee Walker?
He's back on again. Yes.
Hello, Lee. Looking forward to backing the boys down at Preston away on Saturday. Just 2 of the 3 amigos travelling on a Saturday. Dave Batt as well. So some good guys. Foxy, who's one of our FTB guys, says hello. Mammoet Rossa from Tenerife says, good evening and good luck, Tigers. She's been researching. We got our old mate Simon Earnshaw, leader of the ski pack here, saying, not so long ago, City and Leeds were promoted to the Championship. It is possible to build and develop, particularly with great support, which Hull have. Yeah, in Leeds' case, that was it. Really, they appointed a charismatic manager. I don't think they had that much brass in the Championship, and boy, it took them a long time to get up. So, that is possible. And he's also great to have another Yorkshire club in that division. Lots of derby games. Another message here. Amondi is one of our FTB guys. He's a wonderful guy, and he says, top show, guys. I'll be following Hull this season. So you've got a fan in Amondi. That's probably all you need. He's a top guy. So flicking back down, Dave, first few games of the season, how many points do you need to take out those 4 to feel good going into the 5th game?
Yeah, well, Wigan's the cup game, of course. I think Preston are a team that we probably need to finish above this season. Yes. They're a similar side, similar sort of club to ourselves in terms of support. They've been in the Championship longer, of course, but they lost Alex Miller. They put Frankie McAvoy in charge. He had a little bit of a renaissance towards the end of last season, but I don't think Preston are going to be tipped by many people to be challenging for promotion or anything. They're a club that we probably need to be finishing above, so we can get a mid-table finish. Preston, so I like to think we can at least get a draw there. Wigan in the cup, you hope to progress. Derby County, everyone expects Derby to be the absolute basket case, but I do recall us going into the Premier League with about 9 players at one time and having to play Jake Livermore as central defender and going and winning our first 2 games of the season against Leicester and Swansea. So you never know. Strange things happen when players have got up against it. As John QPR, I think, have recruited exceptionally well. Yes. They've got a really bright manager in Warburton. And QPR could be dark horses this season, and they'll be a tough opponent. So look, I think we'll be looking at maybe between 4 and 6 points in the first 3 league games. I think that would be a really good result for us.
Yeah, the likes of QPR, Reading, Swansea are going to give everyone a battle, aren't they? And Cardiff. You got 2 trips to Wales.
long trips, aren't they? But,
Hull to Swansea, some distance, isn't it?
It's a nice part of the world, though, Swansea. I lived there when I was very young. My dad worked for BP, and some lovely places near Swansea to go and visit. Don't knock it. It's a good weekend.
I agree. I've surfed on Freshwater West on the Mumbles, and that is the Mumbles and the Gower is just stunning beaches down there. Everyone forgets about that. Fantastic. Ian, what's your thoughts? First 4 games of the season.
Well, I'm just hoping that we get more points than Rooney has birds in his bedroom. But something like that will do us. 12 points on the ball, something like that. But sorry if I've upset anyone.
No problemo. Right, I'm going to do one final round. We're going to finish off now. But, and I'll come to John first and Dave last, maybe. Just your final thoughts on this Championship season. You can say anything you want. You can sing a song, whatever you want to say. Say your thoughts going into the Championship. Take us away, John.
I would like to see the Hull City fans get behind the owners and the club and bring back the support. Get the KC rocking again, and let's get ourselves back into the Premier League. Good man.
Good luck, sir. Ian?
Yeah, it'd be nice if the club became united again as a pun, really, and everyone got on the same side behind the team. And just regardless of anything else, wouldn't it be good to just go and moan about referees?
Yeah, and not the owners. Yeah. It feels right, Mr. Dave 1972, that you have the final word on this. You have followed through thick and thin, from east to west, north to south, ups and downs, nearly out of the Football League. You're in the Championship. Finish the show. It's all yours.
Listen, it's nice to go into a season excited, optimistic, a young attacking team with local lads in the squad and an academy that's producing players of top quality. these are good times for Hull City once again. I think we should remember that. We've had some bad times. This season, we've got a lot of optimism. And yeah, everybody get behind the team. Don't bother about the owners. Leave them out of it. It's the players that need the support. Get behind these local lads.
Thank you. Thank you. So an FTB Sports production. For the three gentlemen on the screen, anybody watching, please share right across with anybody you know. Once we get the YouTube link on the show, share it. It's amazing how many people will pick it up, how many people when it goes viral, how many will get a lot of thrill. So you can share it on Twitter, of course. You can share it on Facebook. We have an Instagram account as well, where you can follow it with pictures, etc. So yeah, join us. And a last question, chaps. After say the first month or two, do you fancy rejoining and we'll do another show on how Hull are progressing?
Yeah, sounds great. Let's do it.
Give us an update maybe after 6 games. We'll come back in.
Yeah. Do that,
so,
yeah.
Going around. So 6 games in, we do a show. John, what position will Hull be in that state? And I'll jot it down.
15th.
Ian?
7th.
Dave?
14.
Thank you ever so much. I'm going to finish the show, but stay on the line after we've finished going live. To everybody else, there are other sides out there apart from bloody Man City and Liverpool and United and talk about that. There is passion in places like Hull. Guys who want to die for their team, supporters. They're as good as anybody in the land. Cheers. It's a Hull City night and all the best for the championship.